welcome to another edition of Live Better, where life with God is better in every way and every day. Listen, I need for you guys to share this, share this, share this, share this. We are coming upon a part two conversation about holistic ministry in the 21st century. If you didn't see part one, go back and watch that, then come back and see this, because we're continuing a great conversation. I have a wonderful guest here, Minister Sabrina Botts. She is from New Life Community Church right down the road from us. And she has a great resources, but also just a great person. And I'm thankful that you're back here. We were having a great conversation about resources and talking about what that looks like in the community. So you ended our last conversation. You hit me, girl. You said, listen, we can want to give our community what we think they need, but they also got to want it. So we can think and know they need it, but they also have to want it. I'm thinking about this pandemic that we've coming out of and how we came out of that. And you also mentioned partners, which we're going to talk about. But we also know that when it comes to partners, and so we're talking about the benefits of community collaborations in partnerships with different ministries and even organizations right now. So you want to know what that means and how we kind of navigate that. We've seen a lot of partnerships through these last couple of years. Organizations were motivated to get out and partner with the church. Like you said, we are a very large voice in the community and we do have influence. And so organizations did come to us and they still come to us asking. And so we have to think about a lot of things. We have to think and prioritize. So how are you prioritizing resources to provide for the community that you serve? And I love that we all have different communities. So how do you prioritize that?
Well, in different ways, because our ministry has been operating for like 20 years, we know this community. But South DeKalb is changing. And so we know a segment of this community, but we no longer know the whole community because gentrification is happening. And so what we basically do is we look at what needs walk through the door. But we also have a reputation in the community for certain things, for the services that we offer. But some of this thought, like some of the things that I suggested that we'd like to do, like the communication classes and anger management, we know that people need those because of what's showing up in counseling. But we don't yet know if people are going to want those. So there'll be some kind of due diligence that we'll have to do, maybe some cajoling that we may have to do, or we may decide that people get court-ordered anger management classes. So that's an example of something that we could do, allow that so that we can be started and get some capital. I was going to say some street creds. I don't want to say that, but get some social capital in our community that this is something that we offer. We recently got approached by an organization about substance use and abuse counseling. We also know that's necessary, but we know that things like mental health, substance use, and abuse is something that people face stigma with. And so to have them come and set up a booth and say, hey, I want to talk to you about, people not going to come and talk to you. It's like you got on a stinky clothes. They're not coming for that. So we've got to figure out a better way to do that because we know the need is there. We have to help them match their desire. So it kind of goes like we knew during the pandemic that people were going to need food because most of the clients that we serve are what we call the working poor. But they're people who are at risk for homelessness. Maybe like you and me though too, because if you miss a couple of paychecks, you're not going to be able to pay your bills. And then you get on this cascade because you don't have a lot of savings. And so that's the client population that we serve the most. Many of our clients live in the extended stay hotels that are along the, so we know what kinds of things they need because they've been coming and we interact with them on Saturdays and things like that. So we drive our ministry based on what we know they need. But again, you don't always know they're going to want it just because we know they need it. So
that is so rich. Ooh, that is so rich. I hope y'all got that. That yes, it may come through the doors and you know, I counsel a lot of people. I see the needs, but the want and how to navigate what that's going to look like
Yeah.
to turn that want into that need. And because it's really, we're talking about the stages of change.
I was just about to say it. Yep.
The stages of
Yeah.
change and what
Yep.
that looks like.
Yeah.
And that's a process.
Yeah, it is a process.
It's a process.
And I think we have to be in it to win it. That's another thing that is very true of our client population. But I also saw it when I was in medicine with many times minority communities. They already know you and they already think a certain thing about you. And so when they feel like that your only objective is for you, they're not interested in that. Or you're going to have what we call a transactional relationship.
Yes.
And this kind of stuff that we're talking about, and as a faith community that we are privileged to have, could be relational. And so that should be what we're after. And that takes time. It takes time to build trust, both in them and from us. And so we have to be willing to do that. And that's what I thought about the stages of change, because sometimes just offering it to a person begins them thinking about, well, yeah, I do have this issue. We have a support group for people who are dealing with kidney disease, and it meets virtually. And inevitably, when we market it, you'll have a lot of people that sign up, but everybody's not going to show up. Or you'll see somebody who signed up 6 months ago, and then they finally get around to coming to the first group 6 months later, because we've been consistent in our advertising. If you've signed up, then whatever we're sending out as a follow-up, we're going to make sure you're included in that. So it sort of builds that social capital or that street cred with them, so that they know that, no, for real, I'm really here because I want to help you. I'm really here because I want to help you deal with this thing in your life, or I'm really here because I want something different for you. And I think as a faith community that we have to be willing to do that for people, because that's what Jesus does for us.
My goodness.
Because most of the time, unless y'all not like me, he told you 50, 11 times, as my mama would say, before you finally decided to do it, or to open yourself up, or to follow him in those ways. And I think, we get to model Christ in that way, to keep it open to people, to keep offering that to them. Because one day they might get ready,
My goodness. I love it. I love it. That first stage is just awareness.
Yeah, just awareness. Yep.
So if we can just keep providing that awareness.
Yeah.
And like you said, they may come. It's been overwhelming to come back into community. I think that we had to recognize that when we were starting to come back, that we've been isolated, we've been at home, and to come back into community, yes, that was overwhelming to be around people.
Yeah.
And now you want me to be in this group with people and to talk about this thing that I don't really want to change, but I know I need to. So that's a process.
Yeah.
Share some of your secret sauce on how to write a song.
It's very, very important for you to challenge yourself as a writer. So with gospel music, if you go back and you watch the lineage of gospel music, you have to learn how to take life experience and biblical content, because a lot of people will use life experience but don't have a biblical content to what they're doing. So then it's just a song, just a song.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
out of everybody, all the co-hosts, like fiction is my favorite. Like I
Okay.
for it. I went on Amazon. You have great reviews for this book. I mean, I was like, I gotta get this book. It sounds juicy and everything. So can you just touch a little bit more on this series?
So what I did was it's Christian fiction, but I call it Christian reality because I pulled some things from my own personal experiences, some things I'd observed and seen. And the great thing about fiction is you can do whatever you want to with it.
So you and I met through collaboration. Actually, that's how we met.
Yes, we did.
And we have had several organizations that we partner with. How have you oriented yourself to be able to partner with collaborations? You hit on it with making sure you understand the wants and the needs, and talk about that a little bit more about how do we orient ourselves to be able to partner with these organizations that are coming to us.
Well, I think the first thing is to know that everybody shouldn't do everything.
Oh my, oh my.
Because you have a sweet spot, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't grow and you shouldn't branch out, but if you know the needs are there and you don't have the capacity to do it and to do it well, then I think the best thing to do is to identify a partner that is doing that or doing that well. And one of the things that I thought about, even as you and I were talking, or like I sent an email to you earlier this week about a new partner that we have, somebody that's in the neighborhood, and this is not competition.
That's right.
Because Lord knows there are enough needs to go around. So I needed to introduce her to you because there are things that you guys are doing here that their body can benefit from. And then other relationships that I have that she needs to know trying to get into the health space. And so I think that that's helpful for them because their congregants need stuff that she wants to supply, but they don't have the capacity to do it yet. And so I think that's very important. But another thing that I'm reminded of a meeting that we had yesterday with our pastor, and one of the things that he talks about and what guides him in partnerships is that organizational goals need to align. Or as my husband says, all money ain't good money.
Oh my, oh my, yes.
Because many times you're beholding to certain things because of that money or because of that partnership. And so I would say first you got to start with the end in mind. Who are we as an organization and what are we called to do? You know, and I think because we're faith-based, because we're faith communities, then that always should be informed by God. You know, whether or not this is our assignment at this season or this is where we are planted. And so these are the people we're committed to serve. Like you got to have a set of rules that help to govern what you're doing. And I don't mean to the sense that, oh no, we've never done that before, we can't do it again. I don't mean that way, but I do mean as far as your values and integrity and who you are as a ministry, because all of that comes into play. Because when things go left, it's not going to be the funder that people are looking at. It's this ministry, this church that they're going to look at, you know? So I think that should definitely come into play when you're looking at collaborations. But it should be about things that you care about or that you feel assigned to, a call to as a ministry. And again, I believe that churches and faith-based organizations are called to not just feed people spiritually. So,
listen, you have said a few things that really bless me. The first being that we're not in competition. We are many members of one body.
One body.
What we mean,
and it's not our body.
Now, come on, somebody. It's not ours.
It's not our body.
Levels, even with our Thanksgiving. So we do partnerships there. But I love how watching you all pivot with the way you do outreach in other areas and not staying with one thing, but being open. It's been very inspirational to see. But secondly, that we don't have to we don't have to compete because we do serve, even though we're in the same area, we have different demographics. So knowing that need is so important and your demographic. And what your church is called to. What is your vision? What is your goal? What is that?
And what's your assignment for this season?
Assignment? That is so good, so good.
we have none other than Dr. John Paul McGee in the studio with us. You have such a unique gift of both piano, organ performance, but also preaching, right? So I want to know, what do you love most about your ministries of music and preaching?
I love the opportunity to be limitless in the expression of the gospel message. I'm able to express it through oration, sermonically, public speaking in non-ecclesial contexts, but also through what is deemed the universal language, which is music. I'm really grateful and the opportunity to even converse about it and to reflect on what God has given me, the weight of it, the immensity of it. It is truly humbling.
Hey, boss. Okay.
I said I'm fine.
Me the bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
In the morning, what are some of the first things that are important to you as far as your grooming in the morning?
I used to be what they call a metrosexual. I used to get manis, pedis, and facials, and I'm just starting back to getting my facials and stuff done.
You know, I remember, it's funny that both of you brought up the metrosexual part of it, because I just remember that used to be, for a while, that was the thing. If you went and got groomed, you know, that was a label that you got. And y'all excuse me, but I used to correct folks quick, like, I'm not even metrosexual, I'm just sexual. That's just it. So don't put no label on me.
Talk about the benefits of collaborating with organizations, because I think that we think we got to do it all. And so, like you said, you have a large, first of all, your plate is large. He's being humble. It's large. But talk about the benefits of collaborating with organizations.
Yeah. I think that's, I have a friend who's Jamaican, and he used to always say, many hands make work light. So I don't know if that's a Jamaican saying or not, but I think that's the whole idea, that we are many members of one body, but there's so much work to do.
Yes, Lord.
There's so much work to do. So collaborating in partnerships helps to expand your reach. Definitely if you're in a space of getting grants, then that helps, of course, because you have more dollars to get work done. But also just being able to leverage other people's expertise and the niche and the nuances that those organizations bring, where they do it better. You know, oftentimes, for instance, churches want to get in the space of, say, an after-school program or having a school where if there are people that are doing that well, then why not partner and become like a satellite location? You know what I mean? To get your feet wet, to help expand your capacity, but you're building it as you go along. And so we've collaborated a lot around the space of health at New Life. And I've only been on staff since 2019, but I've been a member of the church for, a long time, since 2010. And so seeing what health has looked like over that time, you know, we've had a footprint here and footprint there. But part of my role is to help us build an established program that will be consistent there. And what has been helpful is looking at what you guys are doing and seeing what it looks like to have something that's established, that's consistent, that people in our neighborhood or that we're called to serve knows that they're going to be offering something in the space of health. And so that's been helpful, not only for us to partner on things, but for me to pick up my phone and call you. And I was thinking about that today too, that there's not ever been a time that I have called that you haven't even picked up or sent me a text and said, I'll call you back. And I think that models what collaboration should look like in partnership.
Yes.
Because we're not in competition with each other. And I think as long as we keep that spirit, that alone is collaborative.
Yes,
that we
indeed.
can work together to get the work done. And I think you also have to believe that it's bigger than you.
Absolutely.
Like it's harder for you to hear that it's not about you, but it's not.
The truth is.
But understand that it is bigger than you, not just that the work is, because there's so much to be done. But remember, we get to be agents in what God is doing in the earth. Like this is not our kingdom, it's his kingdom. And we get to participate in it. And so keeping it off of us also helps to keep our hearts not to be so like this about it, where we're more willing to be collaborative partners in what we're getting to do to build the kingdom of God in the earth.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm thinking about these large organizations, I will not name, but they come to us and they want to partner with us. How do you navigate that? Where you're prioritizing, okay, yes, we can collaborate on this, or we may not be able to do that right now. Yeah, what does that look like, and how do we do that?
Yeah, I'll go back to, like I was saying with something that our pastor said just yesterday, you know, and looking at the values of our organization and our goals. What do we value? And does this organization stand for the same kind of things? Or are we going to feel like we're compromising if we're in relationship with them? And so it becomes that all money ain't good money. Also, the terms of the agreement.
Yes.
Is something that you should strongly consider. What is it that you're required to do, in how much time, and what are the restrictions or lack thereof? Like you really do have to read between the lines as to what they're calling you to do, because some things, because we are a church, we're just not going to do. Or if we have to restrict, say, a population that we know we serve, it's not worth it for us to have to not include them because of this kind of thing, you know, so that determines it a lot. I think that where grants can be enticing or partnerships can be enticing is, again, when you have something that you know you want to do and you're not able to do it yet. I just still say you need to strongly consider, what is it going to require? You know, because is now the time, or is that something that needs to wait until you're more ready to do it? So I think those are the things that go into what we look at, you know, because relationships are everything. You know, you're known by the company that you keep. And so you should, you know, you just need to think long and hard, not just as an organization, as you as a person.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
You should think about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that often comes to mind, we're in ministry because God has called us to be.
Yes.
And God can use anything to supply that need.
Sure can.
It doesn't have to be this organization. So we don't get so caught up in, oh, this money is here or this opportunity is here and we got to do it. That should not be what drives the decision. The decision should be, God, is this something that you want us to do? Is this the direction that you're walking in? Because remember, he has the vantage point to see what we don't see. And so all that glitters is not gold, but it's just things that may be down the line that you need his vision and his perspective on in making decisions about where you're going. And so I think that definitely should come into play. Is this something that God would have you to do? Is this a partnership that God would have you be in because of the nature of who he's calling you to be and what's happening? So every opportunity may not be an opportunity. So don't be so, as they would say now, thirsty for this, that you're not gonna think it through. You're not gonna fully vet it. You're not gonna do that due diligence in the process of making good decisions. So
good. Oh my goodness, it's so true. We can be motivated by our own desires, so we have to make sure we lift it up to the Lord first. I'm thinking about the fact that we have opportunities that come to our churches, but there are some churches who don't have these opportunities, do not have these resources, may be smaller in size, and it has nothing to do with anything. But if you're smaller in size, sometimes the bigger organizations don't look right. And so I want you to encourage them and give them some focus for these, how to get these resources.
Yes.
And what they need to do.
Right. Okay. I think that one thing, and for people here in the Metro Atlanta area, every county has a continuum of care. And that's where these organizations in the social services space, where they're connected. And generally there's a lead COC in each county. So I would first of all say, reach out to them so that you can get connected, and that way you
Tell them
get
what the COC is.
continuum of care.
Okay,
And so
there you go.
these will be organizations that are in your county
Okay.
that are in the space of social services.
Okay.
And so when you get connected, then you'll know about meetings, you'll get to meet each other. And then oftentimes they disseminate information about grants, about, or things that people have coming up. That's the other thing I would say is if there are some larger organizations in your area that's doing something, go and participate in them. Networking, ask to be a vendor or ask just to come so that you can meet them and learn from them. And those that will allow you are the ones that you want to get to know. I think the other thing is you need to know what like who you are. Every ministry can't be the other ministry. You have a ministry shape and assignment. So don't make the mistake that you have to do what everybody else is doing. You want to know what your sweet spot is and find somebody else who's doing that. One of our big partners is the United Way. And you can actually, the United Way has a whole website that's just for faith-based organizations. They'll show you how to get started. They even show you things like how to create a board of directors if you're not a nonprofit. So the United Way is a great organization to get to know, and that's a national organization. You can also be a part of the organizations that they refer clients to. So if you have a food pantry, even if it's a small one, then the United Way will feature you. And when clients call who are in your area, they'll refer them to you. So that's just two quick, simple things that people can do. Well, kind of simple, so.
I love it. I love it. And gave a resource.
Yeah.
Come on. I love it. Listen, United Way, excellent. Yes, national organizations. So look them up.
Yes,
look them
up.
Very great resource. Well, Minister Boss, I want you to just look into that camera and tell everybody one way they can live better.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. One way you can live better. I think just as individuals, just knowing that God has called you and purposed you. Like you don't have to be called a ministry in order to know that you're called and purposed. Your life has value, but God intended something when he allowed you to be born and to still be alive in the earth at this moment. And so I think that's one of the main things with living better is understanding who you are and appreciating all that he's given you and called you to. So sort of like knowing purpose and then being about it. You have one life to live. And as my mama used to say, you got to give an account for this life. And I don't really want you to approach it from that like you're going to be in trouble, but make it your point to discover who God has created you to be so that you can live this abundant life that he imagined for you at the moment that he allowed you to be born in this earth.
Well, I thank you. We're going to leave it at that. I hope that you have been blessed by this two-part series. Again, if you didn't see part one, go back and look at part one. We have had a great time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For coming on and sharing wonderful insights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on and sharing. We want you to share this. Make sure you share it wide and far. And we hope that you received something from here. And we thank you for coming again, because I want you to always remember that life with God is better in every way and in every day. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.